So the ceasefire that he was talking about in the ice cream shop, which the optics of that, as Palestinians are starving because of a genocide he's supporting.
Creepy. Seth Meyers smiling beside him like a ghoul, just ah. I'm like, oh my god.
If they're gonna do that, the Biden campaign or Biden White House should have been smart enough to not let press in there. Like, if you're gonna go shoot some video, then do that. But like, that was ridiculous.
Well, I was gonna say that the ice cream ceasefire promise is now off the table as well, because he said today after the flower massacre that it's going to kind of make it more difficult to do negotiations. Of course, it makes sense. Nobody really expected him to follow through on that. Even Mehdi Hassan was saying on CNN, I have my doubts. Gazans were saying we have our doubts because Netanyahu was already saying, he was throwing cold water on the situation, saying, look, we're doing the ground invasion in Rafah. It's inevitable at this point. A ceasefire will just delay it.
All experts have said it's going to be a slaughterhouse.
A slaughter. And now Biden's administration is worried about a ground invasion in Lebanon coming. So it's spiraling. The backlash is spiraling, and he just refuses. Like that inertia, he won't change course. And so I think Mehdi Hassan really put it best. He said that Biden is basically choosing to sacrifice democracy for Netanyahu. That's what he's choosing. And it's so frustrating because he has months to reverse course. And even if you reverse course right now, did a 180, it's still going to be difficult. I think you're not going to win back everyone in Michigan and young people, but you can still try. The fact that he's not even trying with months ahead tells us that he's just like the dude. He's checked out, it's just so ridiculous to me.
Yeah. And the best way to really frame this is something that Lance was hitting on was, if you support sending money and weapons to Israel, if you support the Biden position, the current Democrat position, then you are helping Trump. They keep trying to claim that people, like the vote uncommitted, they're trying to help Trump. No, clearly they are not. They are trying to send Biden a warning that you are going to lose this election if you don't change course. You can't have if you support the current policy in Israel, you are helping Trump, because that is clearly what we are seeing in states like Michigan.
Yeah.
I hate that. The voter shaming does not win you elections either. That strategy of being like, oh, well, come on. They do it towards LGBTQ plus people being like, oh, don't you know that you're going to get, you always talk about how dangerous it is. Did you not care? They do it towards Muslims and Arab Americans too. Just oh, they'll export you. You're going to have to get kicked out of the country if you don't try and stop them. Right. And it's the message should not be towards me. It should be towards the president of the fucking United States right now. This is the person who can change the course of history right now. Does he want to defeat Trump? Is it your priority? Because I'm on board. I don't want to see Trump come to power. Right.
I don't either. I mean, look, I live in a blue state, so I would be insulated from a lot. But the fact remains that a lot of people would suffer under a Trump administration, and the damage that he would do, assuming we survive another Trump term and we still have a democracy after that, it would be irreparable. I mean, how much more Supreme Court justices would he get? How many more federal justices would he be able to appoint? So the fact that they, on one hand, the Biden administration and Democrats, can stress democracy, but then do fuck all to actually try to save our democracy. It is so frustrating to me. And the fact that liberals
Benjamon
are just
Netanyahu.
This
of all reasons, for a genocide, a genocide. I mean, you can't wrap your head around this.
No, it's completely we're gonna look back at this moment, I think, 10 years from now and be just shocked if we survive, right? Because it's just there's no explanation for it. We can try to, articulate why this is wrong and try to rationalize his decision making, weigh the pros and the cons and the incentives. It's just fucking stupid. It's just, you can't explain. This is just the worst politics I've seen. I said that Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign, where she didn't even go to the Rust Belt, that was the worst campaign ever, because she not only told leftists to go fuck themselves after a really heated primary, she didn't even try to win back the Rust Belt. And her whole goal, as Chuck Schumer put it, was, you lose some leftists, you pick up some moderates, right? And she lost. This campaign makes Hillary Clinton look like a fucking strategic genius. That campaign is a million times better than Biden's campaign right now. And if you look at the polls in these swing states, he is losing. David did a great job in his video with Michigan. Every single poll, you were going through it, David, +2, +5 for Trump. Mm-hmm. So if you
ever since October 30th, every poll has been for Trump.
That's I mean, listen, it is true. If we really want to be bury our heads in the sand. It is true that Biden has been overperforming the polls and Trump has been underperforming the polls. Having said
And
that,
a lot
though,
can change in 7 months. That's
a
another
lot
big
can
truth,
change.
right? Yes.
But
yes.
do we really want to roll the dice? Like, Democrats emphasize to us how horrifying a Trump term would be. But if you try to say anything about Biden, how he needs to change course, they attack you for it. They don't acknowledge that there's a difference between constructive criticism and destructive criticism. They don't realize that us saying, hey, there's a cliff right there and we're headed straight towards it at 100 miles per hour, and just saying, hey, fuck Biden, you know, like, this is like, things have changed, and they've got to realize that people are engaged. Like, the people
it's
in
70% of Democratic voters, right? They want a
70%.
ceasefire. They don't support this, and the majority of Americans as well, and his staffers, like independents too. This, like, the world, by the way, not just Americans, Canadians too, overwhelmingly are polling. Like, this is the first time where people defining this as genocide is almost at 50% polling. That's like a massive change. There is a completely different paradigm now. They're ignoring this at their peril. Honestly, it's like, it's so infuriating.
And he can't gaslight his way out of this. And that's what I think he's trying to do, right? He's definitely trying to, at least now, placate people who want a ceasefire, which is why he talked about the ceasefire in the ice cream shop. And, I'm trying to have Israel sign this letter that says we promise not to do war crimes with the weapons that you give us. Like, he's trying to get us to think that he cares, but the problem is that these are not your average voters.
The other thing, right?
Right.
Like, he's saying that he's going to, like, prohibit extremist settlers, but just extremist ones.
Just extremist ones.
Yeah,
very bizarre. But these voters are too savvy. You're not going to lie to them. You're not going to placate them. They're very clear on what they want. They want the genocide to end right now. And if Biden literally is as powerless as he says, then he could prove it. Cut off the weapons, allow a vote to go through on the UN Security Council. And if they keep going without your consent, then you've done all that you can do. But he hasn't done that. There's not been a policy change. There's just all these stories that he leaks to the press about how he's saying, man, this guy is such an asshole, and I've vocalized my concerns. I can't believe Bibi. But you're not changing the policy, and that's the thing that he doesn't get. Like, he thinks that this is 1994, where you could just say one thing, and then there's no way to verify it. But we can actually see now. People are savvy. They're very, like, closely following the story. They see that you are not going to make a change because you haven't changed the policy. So rhetoric is one thing, policy is a different thing, and he hasn't changed the policy, hence why they're not supporting him. So it's so frustrating to me to see this, because the choice is his. He can still turn things around, but he doesn't want to, and it's so frustrating. No. And, like, I hate.
He's a proud Zionist. He says it out loud. Like, in that interview with Seth Meyers, he's like, "What is it? I am a Zionist, and not a single Jewish person would feel safe if Israel did not exist." And that is such a fucked up thing to say when you've got the largest Jewish population on the planet in the country that you're the commander in chief in. But again. Yeah,
it's just insulting. So Jewish people here, they're not safe under you as the president. And the other things they've said to debase themselves. Ro Khanna was questioning Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin today and saying, I don't know who said this, but somebody had said in the U.S. government, one of the Biden administration officials, maybe the chat can help me out, that Israel goes further to protect civilians than the United States military does. Now, listen, we had a drone program. Murderous. And when it didn't murder, it terrorized people in Pakistan, in Yemen, in Somalia. But even the U.S. military, as bad as they are, I think that they take more precautions than the IDF does. Even actual people, like, in the U.S. military have said, when it came to the Jabalia refugee camp, they're like, we would not have bombed in that area if we had intelligence that there was a militant there. You don't do that. You don't bomb civilian centers like that. So the fact that they say these things, I mean, it is so ridiculous. There's not the words to express it. It's just shocking. And then you see the Flower Massacre today, and it's like, this ain't going to change. You would think that it's like, okay, if bombing hospitals and refugee camps and cultural centers and schools, if that's not, if that didn't change it, then maybe this will. But it's not. Nothing will change it. It's just, I'm losing my mind.
The thing with that one, the Flower Massacre, is that there are people in my heart I genuinely do not believe, like, I've spoken to them, I've interviewed them, and I'm just not going to start some teen name streamers, but, like, there are people, liberals and streamers, who are tweeting out stuff where I'm like, at what point is there going to be that breaking moment where we're like, and I keep thinking it's going to happen. It was like one day, it was like, there was that, poor girl who died because she was in a car and the car was being shot up with her family. She lost her family, but then she called into an ambulance, and the IDF IDF got that notification, so they knowingly targeted rescue workers going to, like, that was such a big story that I was like, okay, this is going to break through. It's going to make some liberals and democratic, no matter what, we have to support Israel people suddenly change. But like, there are other people where they were justifying that slaughter as today being that it was actually because Palestinians were fighting. If you watch the footage of the IDF reliefs, they were fighting each other, and so it was just to prevent people from stealing it. I was like, they're forcibly being starved. I don't know when you turned your humanity completely off, but like, I can't imagine what I would. Yes, I would fucking be trying to break into the flour truck to get the fucking flour to feed my dying family because I haven't eaten in months. Are you fucking kidding me? And then we're open fired upon. Like, what the fuck is going on?
They felt
here?
unsafe. The Israeli or the forces felt unsafe. So that was
Hamas was
reason enough to kill 100 people, injure 700 more.
It's even as they starve them and kill them due to hunger. They try to portray them as savages. Look at the way they act when we finally allow in aid. Yes. I mean, I'm sorry, how many people, if you have kids, you would kill for your kids if your kid was hungry, right? Like, everybody can say things like this, the extraordinary measures they would take to protect their family. But when Gazans do it, since they don't have the equal level of humanity as everyone else, it's like, man, look at these savages. They're just like bum rushing the fucking
They don't think of them as humans. Like, they don't think of them as humans. That's the only way that they can possibly be separating that in their minds, like to justify any of this to themselves, is they don't think they're human. And it's just this is why the only response, or the only way to potentially stop any of this, is for Israel's allies like the US to cut off funding, cut off support. That is the only way to potentially to stop any of it.